Okay, sixth grade. So today we are going to be learning about nativism, Ellis Island, and continuing our study on immigration. Once again, make sure you grab the Scholar Packet from Google Drive if you do not have it already. But we are going to go ahead and jump in. Before I get into our inquiry today, which is what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing an inquiry and discussion. Before we do that, I need to go over something on the homework here. So I am going to click our homework, sorry, from yesterday, and cover something that I think needs to be covered here. So what I'm going to do here is pull up some of our responses. If you're just coming in, Anthony, I see you're just coming in, you need to be on time. 11:50 is late because now you've already missed the beginning here. So I want to start off by looking at our homework here. And I want someone to read through these responses and tell me what they notice about them. Hit your raise hand button if you'd like to share out. What do you notice about these responses? Okay, I'm going to call on Adelaide because I saw she raised her hand. Adelaide, you're unmuted.
I noticed that some of these responses are fully fleshed out and like answer the question, and some of them are like one-word responses. Like one of them was just no, and then another one said he is for immigration, and then another one just says the artist was against immigration. That doesn't really explain anything and why you think that, because you could think that based on anything. So yeah.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I'm smiling a little bit because, you know, it is a tad funny, right? For the question to be based on your interpretation of the political cartoon, is the artist against or for immigration? And for someone to say just no, that's almost a little humorous. But we can't be, you know, we're not trying to tell jokes on our homework, okay? When we're doing our homework, we need to fully answer the question. There are some answers in here that did that. I want to highlight this one. So if this was you, excellent job. I'm not going to reveal the name. He is for it because you can see the boat pointing towards clear sky. You can also see that people are coming from a place with a demon in the sky. Okay, yeah. And I also see the board rejects the negative qualities of the government. I see the people look in bad condition, and I can infer the boat will be their savior. If you look closely, you can see that they're coming from a place in struggle of evil because that's what the thing in the cloud represents. We could obviously get a little more specific here, but this was still an excellent response because they quoted based on the political cartoon. Don't think that when it's a political cartoon, you don't need any evidence. And first of all, I don't ever want to see yes or no as the answer on a homework again. You will be marked incomplete. So I don't want to hear I did it if your answer was yes or no, because we expect more of you than that. I expect that you at least spend 10 minutes on this at the very minimum. Putting yes as the answer and then hitting some multiple choice, that doesn't count as doing your homework. So please don't have that misconception. You must fully do your homework. That means a response like this or a response like this one. You know, this tells me that people are coming to the US for a better life. That is an excellent conclusion that was drawn here. But we are not just going in and saying yes. That doesn't count. So if you were someone who said yes yesterday, I'm going to need you to make a claim and use evidence to support that claim, or else you will be incomplete. So put a thumbs up if you understand that. You can use the emoji or put your actual thumb up. Just want to see who understands what I just said about the homework here. Thank you, Naya. Thank you, Kiara. Thank you, Josue, Eric, Elijah, Lemuel. Okay. I see a bunch of people have their thumb up, so I think that most of us get that. This isn't just a homework thing. This is just a general life thing. If someone on the street came up to you and said, based on your interpretation of COVID-19 and how it was handled, do you think that President Trump has handled it in an acceptable way? And you just say no, at least you can say yes or no to that. At least you can, but you need to back it up. Don't just say yes or no, back it up so that people know why you're saying that. Regardless, let's get into our lesson for today. So I'm going to share the Scholar Packet. If you did not grab the Scholar Packet yet, please do that now on the Google Drive. I will put the link in here. In the future, you should take it upon yourself to download that before class starts. So make sure you download that before class starts. I'm putting the link in one more time. It's tiny.cc/sbchw. All right, let me share my screen now, and we're going to get into our lesson. Anthony, just make sure you are muted, please, because the screen is switching to you. Okay. So on the screen now, we have our initial topic. Before we get into class today, I want to establish some terms that might be useful. So I'm going to define a couple of them. Nativism is one of them. Sorry. Nativism. We have Ellis Island. We have Americanization here. A couple terms that we need to flesh out here. Nativism is the ideal that, that people who were there first are in some ways, I think basically what it is, and that's simplifying it a little bit. I think I'm interpreting it a bit, but nativism is just the idea that you should basically assimilate, which means you should become like my ideals because I am an American. I was here first. That's basically what nativism is. Ellis Island is location just outside of Manhattan, as many of you know, in Staten Island, where you immigrate to, or where you actually become a citizen at. So it's where you wait, essentially, as you are coming into the United States. And then we have Americanization. Americanization is just basically this idea that as you come to America, you are going to become more like an American. And so then the question is, well, what is an American? And an American, you know, someone who works hard, someone who has a lot of ambitious dreams. But there is also some, unfortunately, maybe some negative aspects that go along with being American. But I think that Americanization really focuses on the positive ideals. So Americanization is really what Americanization is just the idea that people should, you know, assimilate to the main culture. And by main culture, I mean, you know, dominant culture. I think we recognize now that there aren't like these main cultures that everybody, you know, culture is all kind of equal and we all have different beliefs and different ideas. And even though there is this idea of truth, that more ideas are accepted and we try to get to the bottom of perspectives. And so that is, that should reflect, but meant then was just the main culture. Anaya, to answer your question, you need to go to the website and get the packet, please. So I don't want to hear anybody saying I don't have the packet because I put it online. I put it up sometimes more than 24 hours in advance. So if you can't get it 24 hours in advance, then that is on you. So you need to get it. Please do that now. And then maybe print it out for yourself if you prefer that later. So now that I've covered those terms, we were going to watch a video. We can't do that through Zoom very easily. So that's just something that you'll be doing outside of class if you'd like to watch the video. Most of the time I'll put a video with the homework anyway to help you out. But let's get into our inquiry today. Before we do that, I want someone to raise their hand and tell me what types of things do we do when we engage in the process of participating in an inquiry. So what types of things should we or do we do when we participate in an inquiry? Just hit your raise hand button, or I will, you know, I will cold call some people. Tanovia, I'm going to unmute you.
So when we're in an inquiry, I'm assuming that you're supposed to ask a lot of questions about what you have, and then like describe specific details to back up your claim, to like get into the topic, you know, and maybe question what's happening and take notes.
Oh, Yes, Logan, you can drink water. Logan, you can go ahead and drink water.
My apologies. I just realized somehow I was muted. And so what I was saying here was that, and I'll restate what I just said. So the process that we go through, you're taking notes, you're answering questions, you're summarizing, you're reading, because that helps you assess actually what you know as you go through this. And so that's really important. That'll lead us to the product later, but let's talk about the product after I show you what the process might look like. The process could vary based on the task, but when you're doing an inquiry, these are definitely things that you want to be doing during the process. So I'm going to read the first text, Ellis Island. Now that we have some background knowledge, we can definitely get into our text here. Ellis Island. Most immigrants who arrived after 1892 first set foot on American soil at an island in New York Harbor called Ellis Island. There, the government had built a new receiving station that could handle 5,000 people a day. When that proved too small, the facility was enlarged to handle up to 15,000 immigrants a day. So maybe we could put that here. Even then, there were some days when it was filled to overflowing. Altogether, 16 million people passed through Ellis Island, the great bulk of them in the first 30 years of its existence. So that's important. Let's highlight that. And maybe I'll circle the 16 million in 30 years here. Can you imagine what the immigrant felt on arriving at Ellis Island? Oh yes, America, at last, the very first step on American land. But uncertainty and fear, too. Most worrisome was the physical examination. Immigrants knew that those who failed to pass would be sent back to Europe. So let's make sure that we highlight that, because that can be intimidating. The illness of a single child in a large family could mean a wrenching decision. Should all return to Europe, or should one parent go back with the sick child and the other remain in America with the rest, hoping and praying for an early reunion? Now, this is a difficult situation here. And I know that even now, some families still have to wrestle with this idea of, you know, is it really worth it for that freedom for our family to be separated? And I know that that's still a modern issue that's going on. Only a small minority were turned back, but you can understand why. For some, Ellis Island became known as the Island of Tears. Please star that, underline that. You will need to know that it was called the Island of Tears, and you're going to need to be able to say why. And so I'll let you wrestle with that based on what I just read in the text. That's part of the process, though, is kind of wrestling with these definitions and terms and ideas as we're reading. That's why we write down what we're going to do during the process. After the physical examination came another examination. Immigration inspectors would ask each immigrant's name. If the official wasn't sure how to spell a name, he would give the immigrant a simpler, more English-sounding name. So this is an aspect of Americanization. So I'm going to draw a little arrow here. Aspect of Americanization. This is basically the process of taking cultures and identities and kind of conforming them or assimilating them to American values. In some ways, that can be a good thing in terms of uniting us all and making it simpler, but in others, it can be a very harmful one because you are taking aspects of people's culture or their names that they like and identify with, and you're asking them to conform. So it can be harmful. And it could be slightly positive as well. It could be either. You know, it's up to you to decide. Those are the things that you need to wrestle with as we go through here. I can't tell you how you feel about it. For example, the name Walenshinsky might be written down as Wallace. Let's just make sure that we're muted the whole time, Bintu, because it can be really distracting if you're unmuting yourself. So I'm going to mute everybody and say that you're not going to be allowed to unmute yourself, just so that we can keep going here. I'm going to keep reading. For example, the name Walenshinsky might be written down as Wallace. There were other questions too. Where are you from? Any relatives in America? Why are you coming? Where will you live? Do you have a job waiting for you? There were no wrong answers, but even so, the process could be nerve-wracking and bewildering. Still, when it was all over, the immigrants would be on their way to their new life. One question that I want to ask is, with this quote here that I just highlighted, I'll put a bracket around it here. I want to ask for maybe 1 to 2 scholars to share out, now that we've read through this, What do you think about this quote? What are your general thoughts, this last quote here, based on what you've read so far and what you know about the process of immigration? And I've already heard from Synovia. Synovia, I'd love to hear from you again, but I also would love to hear from some other people here. So I can cold call some people, since this morning we haven't been too eager to raise our hand. So maybe I'll cold call if I don't see a hand come up. All right, so Alejandro, you're up. I'm going to unmute you. Alejandro, what are your thoughts on this last quote here?
I think that this last quote is probably saying that your opinion can never be wrong.
Your opinion can never be wrong. And do you think that's accurate, Alejandro?
I mean, I don't think that's accurate because, like, if you're being moral, you can tell whether or not your opinion is wrong or right.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Alejandro. I'm going to mute now. Alejandro, you're covering it just in general, and that's important as well. I'm actually looking for someone to interpret this in the context of Ellis Island and the text that we just read. So I'm looking for someone to analyze it in that context. So I'm going to cold call someone again because I'm not seeing any hands here. So let's cold call. Let's see what Esther thinks about it. Esther, I'm going to unmute you.
What I think about it is that what this is like saying, it's like saying that during the process of this, they even though there was like no wrong answers, it was like very like nerve-wracking for somebody to tell another person what they what many questions are being asked to start a new life. But it's like mostly talking about that like we should like they didn't like believe in themselves of passing it.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing your analysis there, Esther. I definitely feel the sentiment that you're coming from there. I think one thing I was hoping someone would say is that, isn't it interesting? It says there were no wrong answers, but they actually were telling people they might have to change their last name. Isn't that interesting? I was hoping that someone would raise their hand and say that, but just be thinking about that. I'm not necessarily accusing Americans or people in immigration. I'm just saying it is interesting that that was written there, but things did have to change. So that was something that I thought about. Let's keep going here. So I'm going to reshare my screen because it disconnected again. So just give me a second. So what we're going to be doing today, once this shares, is that we are going to read the remaining texts in your packet. So the rise of nativism, Chinese immigration, and the Statue of Liberty. You're going to read through these texts, and then you're going to fill in a chart here. And then we're going to have a class discussion using these questions that you see here. So these questions are going to be what the discussion's actually on. Please save your questions just for a moment here. I haven't fully explained. I don't want to raise your hand yet. So normally I would assign you all to read a text. Let's put a thumbs up if you have the packet right now, either from online or because you have a paper packet. Put the reaction thumbs up right now so I can see that. Or on your screen like Adelaide's doing. Okay, like Kiara's doing. Joseph has the packet. Naya does. Josue, Jessica. Okay, Josue. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do that then. I'm going to assign you text because almost everybody has it. If you don't have the packet at this point, it kind of is your fault because I did put it up 24 hours in advance. If there are other technology issues, you should let me know, but you should take it upon yourself to get that packet since I put it up there for you. And since everybody has technology, I'm assuming that everybody can access it in some way. You should reach out in the future if you can't access the packet because I know if you can't access it unless you tell me. I'm assuming that everybody can because no one said that they haven't been able to so far. So what I'm going to do is write on the board who is doing what specific text here. So let's break everybody up into a couple groups here. So for the first text, the rise of nativism, I'm going to assign the following people to it: Brianna, Angelina, Adelaide, Alejandro, Anaya, and Anthony, you will read this text. So I'm just going alphabetical here, obviously. So make sure that you write that down. You are doing the first text here. Then we have the next text, and I'll go back to it if you didn't write it down, but you should write it down as I go here. So for Chinese immigration, the next text here, we are going to have Bintu. Sorry, it's down here. Elijah, Eric, Esther, Jessica, Joseph, Josue, and Katie. You're doing that text. And then for the Statue of Liberty text, it's going to be the remaining scholars. So everybody else that I didn't say, from Kiara to Silas in the chat, you are going to be doing the last and final text here. We really need to get into this in the interest of time. So I'm going to say you have the next 8 minutes to read your specific text, and then you're going to go and fill in the chart here. As a result, our product today is going to be the chart and the discussion. So because this is our product, I'm actually going to put up the main discussion preparation here because that's going to be the main thing that we're working on here. So these are the discussion questions. You may begin now. You have 8 minutes. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to mute everybody just so that everybody can focus. Okay, time is up. So let's head into our discussion portion to make the most use of time here. If you did not finish your article, 8 minutes should be plenty of time to finish reading it. So maybe there's a technology issue. That's understandable. To help yourself out, make sure that you download the packet ahead of time. And if you have issues, that you email me so that I can help you not during class, so that you are prepared and ready to go. So we're going to jump into our discussion. I will leave these questions up here so we can access them. But based on the text you read, you should use the evidence and the ideas that you read to your own. So what I'm going to ask is that I just have hands raised with the raise hand button, and then I'll call on people to start off our discussion here. So the first hand that I saw up was Nana. So Nana, I'm going to actually have you get started on that first question for us, Nana. Oh, you put your hand down? Okay. Well, actually, Nana, I haven't heard from you, so I'm going to have you go anyway, because I think that you can answer this with your opinion. So what do you think, Nana? Do you think that people should embrace nativism and anti-immigration policies? Why or why not?
I actually don't think that people should embrace it because
Just take a stance, Nana.
because the immigration policy they had shouldn't be embraced because they would literally change people's names that they took from like where they were born and things like that, and it's kind of disrespectful. Yeah.
Okay. See, that wasn't so bad. Thank you for sharing your opinion. And this is what this is. It's a chance for us to share opinions. So don't feel invalidated. Everyone has their respective right to an opinion here. Let's see some hands for continuing with this question here. Or I'm going to cold call people, but that's not as fun as just raising your hand to participate in a discussion. So I'm going to unmute Naya here.
Ellis Island's role in the immigration process. Well, Ellis Island played a really big role in the immigration process because Ellis Island because Ellis Island helped many but Ellis Island helped many immigrants come to America because they were because Ellis Island was because basically Ellis Island was.
All right, Naya, I'm going to come back to you because time is precious right now. I would love to have you participate. Raise your hand in the future once you've fully fleshed out the question there, and I'll be happy to have you share. So some other hands here for any of these questions here. This is a wider discussion around immigration. So any of these questions you can take a stab at an answer here. Kiara, I'm going to unmute you. Thank you for raising your hand.
The symbol of the Statue of Liberty is freedom and a welcome to America.
Why do you think that?
I think that because the Statue of Liberty, it says liberty and it says freedom, and also the Statue of Liberty was put because of the friendship America and France had, and it's a welcome to America because when the immigrants were coming to America, when they saw the Statue of Liberty, they right away knew that they were in America.
There you go. That's a great explanation. So that's why it's very important that we fully explain, because now I feel like you have a very strong response there, Kiara. Thank you. Joseph and Logan, I had seen your hands up, so I'm going to unmute Joseph first. Oh, sorry, that's Josue. Joseph's name is moving here. Joseph, there you go.
Okay, so I think people embrace the nativism and anti-immigration policies because I think they feel that America should be independent, and I think they feel probably maybe so that other people don't get like they don't interfere with like America's plans and stuff.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Joseph. I appreciate your perspective there. Logan, I'm going to unmute you now.
Okay, so why do I think people embrace nativism and anti-immigrant policies? Because for the anti-immigrant policies, I'm guessing they thought America would become too overcrowded for multiple people. And since it has this much people already, they thought that, oh, we don't need any more people.
Yeah,
And for
thank
the
you for sharing.
nativism,
Oh, yep, keep going.
they pro nativism means, so I'm just gonna skip that part.
You might have missed that, so maybe go back at the beginning of class. I wrote down what that term meant, Logan, so you could take a look at the video that'll be on YouTube later and on the site. So Nana, notice that Logan was trying to take the approach of why would people believe that, and so I noticed that you said, oh well, you know, it comes off as disrespectful, which it does. But I think that most hindsight, most people would probably agree that it comes off disrespectful and a little bit rude to make someone change a part of their identity. For the most part, you know, I think that most people, especially reasonable people, would probably agree with you, Nana. But what we want to do is try to put ourselves in their position, Nana, and say, what? Well, if it comes off disrespectful, why would people believe that? And so Logan took a shot at that, which was great. Any other hands here? And that's okay. Welcome back, Anaya. While these last people finish up, why don't you show me your accountability sign so you can hold up your agree or your disagree or your agree. Maybe you want to add on, you want to build off what someone is saying. So just show me that as the next few people are talking. We have enough time for maybe 2 or 3 scholars left. So who's someone we haven't heard from today? Let's see. All right, Brianna, I'm going to unmute you. I want to hear your perspective on this.
I would say on my perspective, like with like the issues with immigration and nativism. I mean, cause like based on reading from my from the reading, I saw that like how like immigrants were impacting the Americans when like the Americans thinking the immigrants of them differently, which brought up the feeling of nativism.
Nativism.
Yeah.
So I didn't see too many people there with their accountability. I was scrolling through. Thank you if you did those. That's my fault for not reminding you to do that earlier. I know it's not as easy to think to do those when we're not in a classroom. I need one scholar to answer that last question. We haven't really touched upon that today. Brianna, thank you for sharing your perspective. We need that last question. That's important because it shows us how we could tie this all together and apply it to ourselves. Let's see. Adelaide, I'm going to give you the floor here.
Okay, so I think that we still have issues with immigration and nativism today because you can see that there's a lot of stuff going on with certain countries as they try to come in because they don't have the access to just come in. Like for example, specifically Mexico and Mexicans, like the border, they're trying to like they secretly pass through the border these people that just go in and bring them illegally, and then children and their parents are being separated and stuff. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective, Adelaide. That's what I wanted to hear actually, because we are having some border tension conflict going on with Mexico. It is a complicated issue, right? We have to say, well, if people are going to come to the US, you know, maybe they should come in legally, like there should be some form, but then you have to balance that with, well, these people are just seeking a better life. And so those are the two major ideals: is you have to do things the right way, a sort of legalistic approach. And then you have a little bit more compassionate way, which is they should be able to come in. And maybe there's a common ground. A moderate view of that is more people should be able to come into the US. They should just do it legally, and we should not deny people. So there are all these different approaches, and you can fall anywhere on the spectrum there. Be thinking about your critical thinking skills and how you can interact with these ideas, and not just know what Ellis Island is, but explain why Ellis Island was significant. So that's it for today. The last thing I'm going to do is remind you to do the homework, which is a Google form. I'm putting the link one more time in the chat. There it is. If you can't find it, please email me. It's not acceptable not to do it because you didn't know where it was. This is the the third day that I've sent you the link and kind of shown you how to do it fluently by now. I'm already over by a little bit. I'm going to make Miss Myri the host, and then I'm going to head out and say, Walete, omnes, have a good afternoon.